Hi, I'm Dr. Robert O. Young, and I'm sitting here with Brittney, and we're at the Rancho del Sol. And I invited Brittney down here to share her experience with the pH miracle for diabetes. Several years ago, Brittney, you were diagnosed with a condition that I guess affects the rest, or at least you were told was going to affect the rest of your life. And why don't you just share with the viewing audience your experience with that diagnosis, what it was, and what led up to it, and we'll get more into the details.
It was initially very depressing. I was handed a box of needles of insulin and told to inject myself several times a day for the rest of my life, and a glucose meter, and told to check my blood sugar all throughout the day. So it was very, very depressing. I had a blood sugar at the time of about 700 when I was at the hospital. My A1C was 12.
Wow. So what were some of the symptoms that you were experiencing with that high level of blood plasma sugar?
I was frequent urination. I lost almost 20 pounds without trying to. I couldn't breathe very well. I was drinking water all throughout the day. And I had absolutely no energy. I couldn't even walk upstairs.
So you were very thirsty. You had dry mouth.
Yes, very.
Yeah. And so what did they tell you at the hospital about this condition? What was your diagnosis?
I was diagnosed as type 1 diabetic, and I was told that there is no cure and that I will have to take insulin for the rest of my life.
And how did that make you feel?
It was absolutely devastating. It was the worst news I had ever heard.
So now it's been, what, 2 or 3 years since your diagnosis, and you've been taking insulin, and that in itself has been a blessing, hasn't it?
Yes, it's been 2 years since my diagnosis, and having the insulin as a modern-day medicine is definitely a blessing. It's been something to treat my diabetes, but it's nothing that's ever was used to cure my diabetes. So I feel thankful that I've had the insulin to be able to manage my blood sugars in an acceptable range. But insulin has many side effects in terms of having the lows, and it's hard to get it to be the perfect tool to use in your body every single day, because you have those unpredictable highs and the lows even with the medicine.
So usually when you have high blood sugar or blood plasma sugar, what are some of the symptoms, and how much, as far as how much sugar do you have in your blood?
I never really got too high because I've always been really obsessed with checking my blood sugars constantly. But when I would get the highs, I would feel a palpitation in my heart. I would just feel as if there was just sugar flooding through my blood, and my limbs and just my blood was not working properly, and therefore I wasn't functioning properly.
And then the lows. So that would be, when you had highs, they would be like, what, 140 or 160s, 180? Did you ever get over 200?
I've gotten over 200 a couple times. Rarely I would get up to about the 400s, maybe a handful of times that's happened, and I instantly gave the insulin. But I frequently would get the lows because I really wanted to have tight control, but it's very hard to get tight control without experiencing the lows, and I would get shaky. And
you would go down, what, into the 60s or the 50s, or did you get as low as 40?
I've gotten as low as 40, and I've also been in the 20s, which has been once or twice.
And what does your body feel like when you have these low or hypoglycemic incidences?
The tricky thing with that, it makes you feel as if you're so hungry. You get shaky, you get sweaty, and then you just feel as if you were just famished when I had just eaten, say, 2 hours ago. So then I was always having to counter my lows with food.
So how often would you have to test your blood to see what your blood sugars were at?
People are prescribed to do it about 3 to 4 times a day, but when taking the insulin, you want to take it before you give your insulin, an hour and a half or to 2 hours after taking the insulin, and then also about 4 hours after taking the insulin. And then you think people eat about 3 to 4 times a day, so that could be so many times throughout the day. So I was having to check my blood sugar all the time.
So your life has been somewhat consumed with having to take this blood test to manage your blood sugars.
Yes, it felt like a game that I could never win. I was constantly playing a game with my own body to see what my sugars were, if they were at an acceptable range, if they were too high or if they were too low. And based on that number, it was dictating what I would be able to do, if I could go play a sport, if I could do yoga. So it was always very overwhelming. My mind was constantly thinking about that.
And if it gets too high or if it gets too low, you could go into a coma and die.
Yes. Yeah.
And the other thing is, most people don't realize this, but diabetics really don't die from diabetes. They die from another symptom associated with diabetes, such as when you have the high blood sugars, your heart starts beating rapidly, or your circulation is compromised, so you end up with diabetic neuropathy, or your kidneys fail. And that's what happens to most diabetics. So over time, the symptoms become worse than the actual disease condition. So you were told then that there was no cure for diabetes, that you would be on insulin for the rest of your life. And when you were told that, how did that make you feel?
Very depressed. I didn't feel like I could be who I truly am when I would have to deal with this baggage of having to carry insulin with me everywhere I go, and have something that would dictate what I can and cannot do.
Did you start gaining weight, or how did the insulin and this condition affect your skin or your weight, or or your overall cognitive function, or your overall well-being, how you felt emotionally?
Yes, all those factors were affected. Before I was diagnosed as diabetic, I had a normal weight, and then the moment that I was taking insulin, I started gaining weight. I think I gained about 20 pounds, and I was always exercising was the funny thing. And I would try and eat just like a really good diet, and everything I did, I could not lose the weight no matter what. And when I was taking the insulin, I'd feel relatively okay, but I just didn't feel the healthiest I could possibly be, and I just wasn't truly happy.
So, wow, having to do that for the rest of your life, and I'm sure that was somewhat depressing to you. But you've expressed some gratitude that it was helping you to stay alive and to be able to live life. But you seemed handicapped. How did this affect your social life?
Yeah, exactly. I felt very embarrassed. I would keep it hidden most of the time. It was really limiting when I'd want to go out and do almost anything, because before I would go and do whatever I wanted to do, I'd have to check the blood sugar and or give the insulin at a meal, and then you always get the millions of questions from people who don't know what it is, and then it's just you have to explain everything, and then you think of how many people you meet on a daily basis, so you're having to explain yourself all the time, and it was not fun.
Yes, and I don't know, did that affect anything to do with how you felt in dating or being around, let's say, guys? I mean, did you feel somewhat hesitant to tell them that you were diabetic?
Absolutely. Not even just guys, just pretty much anybody.
Yeah. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, just about a month or so ago, you heard about the pH miracle for diabetes. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what transpired from learning about this program?
I was instantly attracted to this program because it is holistic, and it wants you to treat your diabetes, holistically and naturally through diet. And Dr. Robert Young is a scientist, so everything that he says just makes complete sense. And just by alkalizing the body and getting your body to a healthy pH, and by doing so every single day, I just feel so much better. I'm truly happy. I'm able to do the things I want to do. My blood sugars stay at a steady range. It's usually running in the 85s. I'm able to do my yoga. I'm able to do all the things I wanted to do in the past that I was able to do with the insulin, but it was so hard to manage a healthy blood sugar.
So 85, that's perfect. And you started the program while you were doing insulin and checking your blood sugars. And what happened after 3 days?
After 3 days, I completely was off all of my insulin.
So, and you knew that because you were testing your blood sugars, and you saw that you didn't need to bring your blood sugar down, or you didn't need to bring your blood sugar up with, let's say, a glucose pill, that you were able to manage that strictly by how?
by the foods that he calls for in his program and the salts. I noticed that I think is just the miracle right there. My body just seems to automatically know what sugar it needs to be at, and I don't get the lows. I'm able to do everything that I want to do physically and everything, and my blood sugar just stays at a steady range.
Yeah, I think most people don't realize, because we were all taught this, that we need sugar for energy. In reality, through my research, I have discovered that sugar is a biological waste product of metabolism. And so the reason why you have sugars in your blood, because you're using energy, and when you use energy, you produce a waste product. Much like a car, when it's using petrol, when it's burning fuel, it produces a waste product like carbon monoxide. So glucose is a waste product. So we have to have glucose, not for energy, but it's actually a marker that our body is on, it's functioning. And so when it's under-functioning or over-functioning, this is when we have high and low blood sugars. And so the most deficient thing that we find in diabetics is what?
The salt.
That's exactly right. And salt is so critical because it's the necessary element that helps to build alkaline buffers to neutralize or minimize the high blood sugars. And then when you're eating a good diet, a raw alkaline green diet, and that's what you've been doing now for how long?
3 weeks.
Yeah, and how have your energies been since you've been on this program? Do you feel deprived? Do you feel like you're on a yo-yo, up and down energy-wise, or do you feel more energetic than you felt for a long time?
So initially in the beginning, I felt definitely tired, and that's because I'm going through a cleansing period, and my body is just constantly releasing all the toxins that it's been full of. But every day gets better and better and better. So just by taking the salts, the liquid chlorophyll, all the plants, the greens, the smoothies, the shakes, the avocados, it's helping my body heal. And now that I'm 3 weeks into it, I feel absolutely wonderful.
And you were taking, 15 to 20 units of Lantus?
Yeah, I was taking about 17 units of Lantus, and then I would have to also take Hemalog.
Yeah, Hemalog. You were taking, how many times a day and how many units? About
anywhere from 3 to 4 times a day, and I'd have to take anywhere from 5 to 12 units of Hemalog, depending on what I ate.
Yes. So in order to neutralize the acids from those foods.
Exactly.
Okay. And so now you're managing it with what you eat and what you drink. And is that difficult?
It's absolutely not difficult. I look forward to it every morning. I make my own almond milk every morning. I love pouring the liquid chlorophyll in the almond milk. I love making my shakes.
And those are green shakes, right?
Yeah, my green shakes full with avocados and just blended spinach. And then I make the juices. And I drink the high alkalized water. So I look forward to every morning waking up.
So do you make these yourself?
I do, and that's what I want to say. It's so important to know. I've been starting this program all from my home. I've been doing this all by myself at home. And I want other type 1s to know that you can do this on your own too.
So what you're finding, which is true for you, is that you do not have to take insulin, that you can actually live your life normally by managing what you eat and drink. Is that a correct statement?
100% correct, yes.
And so you've been able to reverse, and I'm going to say this really clear, you've been able to reverse insulin-dependent type 1 diabetes, where you've been told there's no cure, that you'll be on insulin for the rest of your life. So you're here on your own free will. It's your choice to be here to share this information that there is a cure for type 1 diabetes. You're not being paid for this.
Absolutely not being paid for this. This started basically on my own. I'm like millions of other people who've bought Dr. Robert Young's pH Miracle book. And 3 weeks ago, I bought the book, I read it, and ever since then, I've been following exactly what I'm supposed to be. And I have a coach who also is my support and helps me. And through the coach, she informed Dr. Young that I've been off all my insulin. And he asked me to come here and make a testimonial about it. And like I said, this is something I don't tell even majority of my friends or whatnot. This is something that's a sensitive subject for me to really talk about. But by just being honored by Dr. Young to ask me to come here and share my story, I have to share this with other people and let them know that they don't have to take insulin for the rest of their lives and that they can do this on their own from home.
So they don't have to have the fear of possibly having too low or too high, and they don't have to suffer the symptoms that eventually comes from just taking insulin all their life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Through this program, I haven't noticed any side effects other than just my body releasing the toxins, which I'm very glad it's doing. And just the other thing I want to show too is, I have all my medical records saying that I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I have all that on my A1Cs. I have my A1Cs now showing the 5s, the 5.8. I have my glucose tester that shows all day long what my readings are throughout the whole entire day. So I have all that proof, and I could make another video or give an email, anything if people would like to really know more about this.
Well, this is such wonderful news, and the reason I asked you to come down is because I think it's so important that we have the option, the health freedom to be able to choose the type of care that we want, rather than not, let's say, being stuck with just one particular treatment protocol. So I'm so happy that you would come down, that you would share this information, that there is hope for a cure for type 1 diabetes. I would encourage all of you to pick up our book, The pH Miracle for Diabetes, as well as our new release, The pH Miracle Revised and Updated, which goes into more of the protocol in Chapter 11. And of course, each of our books have all the wonderful recipes that were created by my wife, Shelley, on how easy this is, because it's not only easy, it also tastes good. Is that correct?
Delicious.
Yeah. And the wonderful thing is you don't have to feel like this is a program of deprivation. You can eat as much as you want, as often as you want, as long as you understand it needs to be green, it needs to be alkaline, and it needs to be raw, live foods.
Yeah.
And you can get off your insulin, and this is exactly what has happened.
Yeah, and that's one other thing I want to say too is some people might say that she's not eating carbs and stuff, but avocados have carbs. I am eating stuff like that, and before in the past I would have vegetable juices, I would have stuff like that, and my sugars would raise. I wouldn't be able to do that, but my sugars are so steady by following what he's prescribing.
So contact us at thephmiracle.com if you want more information. Our books are also on Amazon.com, and or just give us a call at 760-751-8321. We want this message to get out to everyone because it's an important message. It can not only change lives, but it saves lives. And here next to me is a beautiful young lady who's an example that you do not have to be on insulin for the rest of your life. And how does that feel?
Absolutely amazing. I feel reborn and just given a new chance in life.
So I think you described it as a state of happiness.
State of happiness I've never truly experienced. Yeah.
So thanks again for being here and sharing your experience with the pH Miracle for Diabetes.